Well, good afternoon or good morning or good evening, whatever it is for you. Just making sure that we are live first and in the group. If you are joining me in the live, you can say hello in the comments just so that I know that there are other human beings there. And let me know where you're tuning in from, which would be great. Okay, so we're going to jump in and spend about 20 minutes together. I'm going to be talking about a topic which is really dear to my heart, and it certainly was something that I had a major issue with. And, you know, as someone who works with professional services leaders all around the world, I find this being the foundation of everything else that I do. So hopefully, as I said, this is going live and working for you. LinkedIn's not showing me whether it is or not. So hopefully you will be able to. Okay, there it is. Fantastic. All right. So who am I? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Grant Herbert, and I have a passion to be able to help people in professional services to be able to navigate this thing called life, a career, whatever it is for you, without burning out. You know, make your income, make an impact, the things that you want to do. And I get the privilege to be able to do this all around the world with people just like you. I can see now, LinkedIn's helping me. I can see that there are people live. I'm just going to drop there we go. I'm just going to drop a Dropbox link for those of you who want to follow along with a workbook or actually do some things later. And I also, at the end of this, I'm going to give you a way that you can get some more resources from me, tell you different places you can go to be able to take this to the next step. All right, so for those of you who've been following me along, you know that what I do is I talk about 9 crucial shifts that every leader in professional services needs to make so that they can be a greater influence, so they can make a bigger income and actually make the impact that they want to make in their career without all the stress, without all the conflict, and without burning out. If you are joining me live, as I can see some people are, say hi in the comments so that I know that this is working and that you are hearing me, and just let me know where it is you're tuning in from. That would be great. So in those 9 shifts, I look at 3 particular areas. I look at personal leadership, I look at professional leadership, and I look at people leadership. And I'm going to kick off this series that I'm doing with you by starting at the beginning, which is a good place to start, and that is personal leadership. Unfortunately, people think that leadership is something that you only need when you've got a team and you've got to tell other people what to do. It's not the case. Leadership starts with leading yourself. And if it's only you, that's totally okay. And my experience is in my own military and then corporate career and working in my own practice is that these personal leadership areas are the ones that create the biggest challenges for you. All right, so there's 3 shifts in that area, and I'm going to shift screens here, and we're going to talk about shift number 1, which is your identity. As I said, there is a workbook. I've put the link there. If you want to grab that, you can. Just grab the link anyway so that you can get it afterwards if you would like to go through. I'm going to give you some exercises and some things you can do. So this isn't just you coming to listen. There's some stuff that you can do as well. Now, this module of training I normally do in 90 minutes. So we're not going to go through everything, but I'm going to give you enough to be able to then go and get some resources, etc., to be able to do what you want to do with it. All right, so this shift is going from being conflicted, where you aren't quite sure whether or not the things that you're doing are who you are, to being congruent and being authentic and being okay with who it is that you were created to be, not being something or someone, I should say, that others want you to be all the time. And I know that was my biggest challenge, was that in itself, right? I went through my whole military corporate career, even into my, the first few years of running my practice, where I'm working with people like you, where I cared way too much about what other people thought of me. And I would be really concerned about that. And it then took my focus away from the people that I wanted to help. And I behaved in a certain way through that people pleaser mentality. So it's about going from approval, we're constantly looking for the approval of other people all the time, to a position of authenticity, as I said, where you get to be the real you. I find that being the real me is the easiest gig to play. It's exhausting trying to be something that you're not. And when you think that you need to be a certain way for people to accept you and approve of you, that's where these problems come in. And you start being other than who you really are, and it doesn't feel right, and it creates a lot of problems. So I want to just show you a little model, and if you can watch this back if you haven't got the workbook yet. But I'll show you this little model here that sort of encapsulates this whole identity shift. And there are 3 areas that we want to work on, we want to look at. The first is where your approval comes from. The second is your beliefs. And the third is the conditioning that you have gone through and continue to go through. All right, so when you have your approval coming from a healthy place and your beliefs are empowering, then that's going to give you the confidence that you need. It's going to give you the personal power to know that everything's okay, you can get where you want to go, and allows you to present yourself to the world in an authentic way. When your beliefs are healthy and that conditioning has been reprogrammed, then you become very capable. You'll be able to then use the gifts and talents that you've got to their fullest advantage. And when we get that conditioning where it needs to be and that approval coming from a healthy place, then it allows you to be creative. Your future's not something that just happens. It's something that you can create. And this is all about your identity. All right, so let me just check in with you here. So firstly, what is your identity? So your identity is who you believe you are and who you believe you're not. And it's totally different to what you do. When I'm working with groups of lawyers or accountants or other professionals in professional services in rooms, doesn't matter where I am in the world, the first thing I do is I get them to put their hand up. Let's say they're lawyers. Put your hand up if you're a lawyer. And then what I want to do straight away is challenge that, because here's what I say: you're not a lawyer. You're a person, you're a human being, and law is what you do. And the reason why lawyers, accountants, whoever, whatever profession you're in, why they're unable to separate from their work when they go home is it's who they are. That becomes an even bigger problem at the, towards the end of the career, when I know people stay a little bit longer than what they could because they think, well, hang on a minute. If I'm not a lawyer anymore, who am I? All right, so I want you to understand that your identity doesn't come from what you do, it's who you are. And who you believe you are is really, really important. So as I said, we're not going to go through the whole module here. We're not going to keep you here for 90 minutes, but I want to make sure that you get enough out of this to go and make a start on the change that you need to make. For me, where does this come from? Why am I so passionate about this? As I said right up front, this is the biggest area that I had to get through, right? I found out something when I was 15 that had happened when I was a baby. And when I found out about it, I had a pity party for the next 25 or 30 years. It's what I made that event mean about me that created the problem. I had beliefs around myself, around the world, around, my mother, whatever it was. I had beliefs that I formed that then were the basis and the foundation of every bit of behavior that I produced. Now, for me, I saw myself as someone who was not lovable, not worthy. I was concerned about being rejected, and therefore I set about subconsciously trying not to get rejected. And unfortunately, when you're focusing on not doing something, it tends to come to pass. So I want to be really vulnerable as we start this journey together with you, because I want my vulnerability to help you to be able to get over this stuff. Now, I don't expect in a public forum here for you to type in comments and questions and this, that, and the other. As I said, I'm going to make sure that there's a place that I have set up for everyone here in this, in the Professional Services Leadership Academy here on LinkedIn, where you can come and, have some private conversations. But what I really want you to do is, as I'm going through this today, I want you to look at it and go, okay, where does that fit me? So take my content, put it into your context and go, what's it costing me? And for me, it was costing me relationships. It was costing me fun, and it cost me my health. And I have had several times in my life where I've burnt out physically, mentally, emotionally. I lost my first marriage. I have had relationship issues with my children, with people that I've worked with. I'm 61 years of age. There's a lot of history that's gone in from when I was 15. And I was able to break free of this about 15 years ago. All right. So there's been the last 15 years has been a lot different. All right. So let me just flick back into here. So what I want to do is talk to you about the performance trap. The performance trap is performing in a certain way, and that then trapping you and stopping you from being who it is that you need to be. All right. So performing to get the approval of others is going to slowly but surely erode away the true sense of who you are, and that's your identity. It's just like the 12 apostles down at the bottom of Victoria here in Australia. There's not 12 there anymore, because what's happened is over the years, the sea and the sand and the wind and everything working against it has eroded away. And that's what's happening to your true identity every single day, slowly but surely. It's taking away that true sense of who you are. Now, let me tell you why this happens. Every single one of us on the planet operates out of 3 universal fears. Now, I'm, assuming that I'm talking to human beings, because I know that every human being does this. And in the work that I've done, the credentials I've got, the training, but more importantly, the experience that I've had, the privilege of working with thousands of people around the world on this stuff, is that every single one of us fit into this. The first one is the fear of not being enough. Some people might add the word good. So I'm not good enough. People don't think I'm good enough, whatever it is. The second one is the fear of not belonging. And the third one is the fear of not being loved. Now, when any of these fears are triggered, then our behavior changes. And what it leads to is human beings being addicted to approval, caring too much about what others think. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt, yes, she said, what other people think of you is none of your business. In fact, she went on to say, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So it's good if people like us, and that's all great. But if it's the motive that we perform for, then it becomes a problem. All right, so in your workbooks there, or if you're drawing it on a piece of paper, let me explain it to you this way. So every single day, you and I get up and we perform. I'm performing right now. The performance isn't the issue. But the reason for which we perform in a certain way is where this problem comes in. And when you perform to get external approval, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. And the problem with that is that whether or not you get that, it affects your identity and the beliefs that you have about yourself. And that's the foundation of everything that you do. So, as I said, performance is what you do, but your identity is who you believe you are. So, when you get up and you're performing and, you know, your whole day is thinking about, am I good enough? Do I belong? Do they like me? You know, all these things going on. Then you're not going to be who it is that you actually are. You're going to go against. You're going to go, okay, this person needs me to be this way. And my experience is most of the time, it's not the case. Most of the time, it's propaganda that we've got going on in our own mind. It's our own, internal dialogue that's creating these things, but it makes us behave in a certain way. So I believe step one in this is for you to retrain your mini-me. So mini-me is that small version of you. All right, it's that small voice that gets in your ear. It's that inner critic that tells you that you're not good enough, that you're a fraud, that you're whatever. It's your self-talk. You know, my experience is that human beings speak worse to themselves than they do to anyone else on the planet. There's no way that you would speak to someone the way that you let yourself speak to yourself, because it breeds self-doubt. Unfortunately, and I've been here, it gets to self-loathing, where you actually don't like yourself. And that can create all sorts of feelings and all sorts of behaviors. But I want to help you to change that. And I'm going to give you a number of things, as I said. I'm going to give you a way to stay connected and get some more of this stuff. But I want you to take this on today as being the one thing to take away from this live. There's a 3-step process that I'm going to teach. I love process, because what a process says is do this, then do this, then do this. It's something that I can follow. So this process of retraining your mini-me, to do that, I want you to think about a small child. You know, I always like to talk about my grandkids. I tell people all the time I'm an ordinary guy with an outstanding wife, 5 amazing kids, and 4 exceptional grandkids. And grandkids are the best. So if I look at one of my young grandkids, I'm going to speak to this mini-me, this internal voice, this internal dialogue, as if I was speaking to a young child, because that's what it is. It's someone that is reliant on you for safety, for security, for comfort. And you've created that inner voice in you, just like I've created the one in me. So let me explain it, and I'll use that metaphor of my grandchild to help you understand. So imagine one of my grandchildren came to the door right now and, over here in my studio, and said, "Grandpa, Grandpa." And imagine that I just ignored him, showed him my hand, and just kept talking to you like that, like I'm doing here. What's going to happen? Yeah, right. He's going to get louder. He's probably going to think, oh, the silly old goat. He's finally gone senile. He can't hear me. Whatever he's going to think, but he's going to get my attention. He's going to get louder. He's going to be hanging off my leg, pulling at me, whatever he needs to do to get my attention. So if I just ignore him, what is it doing? It's interrupting a pattern. Because what I've taught my grandkids is through, them seeing this behavior, is that all they need to do is say my name and I listen. I give them my attention. But if I disrupt that pattern and ignore them, they're going to need to get my attention in some other way. That's exactly the same as your mini-me, your inner voice, because you've trained that inner voice that you're going to listen when it reminds you, when it tells you about things that you don't do because you're not good enough, or tells you what to do to stay safe and to eliminate or avoid those 3 universal fears. So what we need to do instead is the first part of the process is acknowledge your mini-me. So I say to my grandchild, hey, Louis, come on over here. And I pick him up and I say, hey, everyone, this is Louis. And he says hello back. And I say, hey, Louis, what we're going to do is Grandpa's just going to talk to these nice people for a while. And then you and I are going to get some ice cream. So sit down over here, etc. Now, it's a metaphor, people. We know that a young child, if I'm not ready in another 30 seconds, they're going to be at me again, but just work with me. So what did I do? I acknowledged that I heard them, that they were there. That's the first thing. So the same thing with your mini-me. Yes, I hear you. Then what you want to do, just as I did then with my grandchild, is explain what's going to happen differently. Yeah, I know. You taught me to do that. You taught me if I was going to step up on stage and speak in public that we don't do that, and you pull me back up. Yeah, I understand that. But no, what we're going to do now is something differently, right? We're going to go up and we're going to speak on stage or whatever it is, right? And now the mini-me knows that they're going to do something different. So then what we want to do is demonstrate it. So as I did with Louis, I just went back to speaking with you. Same thing. And if we continue on what I was using as an example, you step up on stage and do the talk or whatever it is that you didn't think you were good enough to do before, right? So what you're doing is reprogramming that inner voice. You see, just like you do and I need to do to learn something, we've got to unlearn some things. So we need to help that internal dialogue, that mini-me, that self-talk. We need that to unlearn the things that we saw as true before. And some of those things are the beliefs that you have about yourself, etc. And we'll talk about those as well. So we need to unlearn them so that we can relearn some new things. All right, so how does that all happen? It happens through something called neuroplasticity. Now, I'm a self-professed neuroscience nerd. I'm not a neuroscientist. I've done a lot of work in applied neuroscience and I've got credentials in that area and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I learnt what I know about neuroscience and continue to know about neuroscience. I learned it through necessity. And I just love knowing what happens with the brain and the nervous systems and, brain-body balance and stuff with performance and all this sort of stuff. It's fantastic. But neuroplasticity is actually rewiring the brain. Rewiring the brain with new neural pathways. So there's about 80 to 100 billion neurons in our brain, depending on who you believe or who you listen to. And there's synaptic connections through electrical and chemical connections in the brain. And it goes from here to here to here to here, and it forms a neural pathway. Neuroplasticity has proven that what we can do is we can develop new neural pathways. So when we would normally, when this happens, go there, we can shift that. We can shift the thinking, and it's going to shift the behavior. So one of the things that we need to particularly shift are the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself. Now, if you look in the workbook there, I've given you an exercise to do around that. But I just want to give you an overview of what we're going to be doing there. So limiting beliefs are those core beliefs that you have about yourself, about others, and about the world that aren't true. Right? In fact, I like to call them false beliefs. They're the beliefs that you formed about yourself from experiences that you've had. And as I said to you before, when I was a small child, when I was 15, I found out that when I was a small child, my mum put me on a doorstep and, they went back and got me and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, what I believed about that when I was 15 was that my mother didn't love me. Therefore, I'm unlovable. I'm not good enough. Nobody wants me. all these things that as a 15-year-old who had a very low self-esteem at that point of time anyway, I already thought that I was, not worthy, and, I was shorter than everyone. I had all these challenges going on. So I already had a dialogue that was there. And I took on that belief, even though that I found out at that same conversation that, Dad went and got me. My mum was really sick, and it wasn't actually that she didn't love me at all. It was that she loved me so much. She was willing to give me up to this other family so that I could have the life that she thought I deserved, that she, in her mental state at that point, couldn't give me. She had postnatal depression, and, 60 odd years ago, they didn't really recognize that. They said, here's your baby, go home, good luck. And she was doing what she thought was the best thing. But I chose the negative because it lined up with how I felt about myself anyway. Now, you may not have been left on a doorstep and found that out when you were 15, but there are things that have happened in your life that have been said to you that you've made mean something about you. And that's the foundation of your limiting beliefs. So what I want to invite you to do as you retrain that dialogue is to get some new data to give it. Shift your thinking about you and build your identity back up to where it needs to be. So that's really what I wanted to cover with you today. I want you to understand that your identity is not what you do, it's who you are. More importantly, it's who you believe you are. It's not something to outsource to others. So if you've got imposter syndrome, if you are addicted to approval, if you're a people pleaser, if you're stuck in that performance trap like I was, this is the root of that problem. The good news, as I said, just like I've done and just like I've been able to help thousands of people around the world to do, is you can change that inner dialogue. You can reprogram what's going on up in there. And that's going to help you to be able to develop more personal power, to be able to set some clear and healthy boundaries for yourself and others, to be able to have the confidence to be who you are, the authentic you, which, as I said, is way less exhausting than trying to be who you think everyone wants you to be. So if you've got questions, you can drop them in here and I'll definitely come back and answer them. But if you feel more comfortable to do that in an environment where no one else is going to see that, then either connect with me through LinkedIn, and if you go to the pinned post at the top of this page, you'll see that I've set up a private portal where you can come and you can be a part of a community and we can talk about these things. And you can also have access to me via something where no one else is going to see it as well. Because I see it as a privilege to get to do what I do all around the world. I get to work with people who, just like me, are human beings who have beliefs about themselves, who have a past that they've made mean something, who have failures that they have gone through, who've got challenges and issues, because that's what being human is all about. So in these 9 shifts, getting this identity solid is the key to all the other 8. It's the foundation of everything that you do. So we've gone a few minutes over time, and this is the first time we've done this in this group, or on this page. So I'd love you to give me some feedback down below. I'd love you to show me some love. If you like this, if you think this is going to help anyone else, then please, if they're in professional services, and I want to keep this page for that, because they are, that way we can talk about things in professional services, then invite them along as well. and I will be doing these on a regular basis. I want to be guided not just by a curriculum that I have, but I want to be guided by questions that you ask in the group. So, on the page, get in, ask some questions, tell me what you want to know, anything to do with human behavior and leadership, emotional intelligence, those sort of things. Nothing about the technical side of professional services. That's not what I do. All right, so have an amazing day. Enjoy the next part of your journey, and I look forward to the opportunity to continue to go on this journey with you. All right, I'll see you soon.